And welcome to the Doctor Who podcast. Tonight we're covering chapter 6 of Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. So this chapter is called Giant's Drink. In this one, the students enter the battle room for the first time. Ender figures out kind of the no-gravity situation, and he makes his first real friend since arriving at battle camp. He also spends a lot of time playing a game called Giant's Drink, which leads to some interesting consequences, so stick around.
Welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. My name is Chris.
I'm Chip.
I'm Brian.
Tonight we're covering Chapter 6 of Ender's Game entitled Giant's Drink. That's all I got.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's all
Nothing.
you've got there.
My
all right.
notes are short. I'm
All right.
relying on the brain.
Okay. Yeah, so this chapter, it was fun. It was a little bit slow for me, but it was okay. So there were two things that were kind of happening here. So between the video game Giant's Drink, which basically gave Ender a choice in the game of drinking two different things that ultimately killed him, is what he figured out. And it seems like there's all these, in addition to the battle games and all the stuff, that they're constantly almost manipulating these kids' brains through these different games. So anyway, they also get to the battle room for the first time. So the way Card portrays Ender here, he's quick to pick things up. So he kind of learns how to work in zero G. He figures out his gravity suit, and then he actually meets Alai. I think he probably met him before, but now they found some things to bond over, and that they realize that they kind of dig each other and they get along. So yeah, and Bernard's a dick. So, anyway.
Yeah, I thought Alai was a good addition in this chapter. It feels like Ender has finally grounded himself. He's found his first friend, if not ever, at least certainly up in space here. I thought the battle scene was great. In my mind, I kept picturing the first time I went out ice skating. Everyone is kind of hugging the wall. No one really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Then you have that
Yeah.
one kid that kind of goes out there and tries to do something, and even if they look foolish, they're still at least doing something. So I thought that was a pretty cool deal, especially with how they ended the chapter with the war at the end. And but I go back to the namesake of this chapter, the Giant's Drink, and we get into some real, and again, I'm sure Chris was going to say this. I'm sure Chip was thinking it too. But man, this sounded an awful lot like the Kobayashi Maru.
The no-win situation. I've got that in my notes.
Yeah.
It felt like it was a situation where I don't know what the game was intending to have happen, but Ender clearly advanced beyond the level, and we're starting to enter into this weird moral question of what is war and what is acceptable in war. If you're put in a no situation, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's a really there are these little bits that get dropped like that make you wonder, what was Orson Scott Card going through that he wrote this? But it was a really, I thought it was a deep chapter. I wouldn't say it was my favorite chapter, but I think there were some definite questions that were being asked that made me kind of pause and reflect on those as I was reading.
So, first of all, I really liked how Ender and Alai did kind of befriend each other over, Bernard being a dick. And I really enjoyed how Ender realized that the way he was going to kind of combine this unit was to have everybody unite under Alai. And instead of trying to battle Bernard for who was going to lead this group of Launchies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it even said in the beginning, they're like, okay, we can't move him until he figures out how to resolve this situation.
Yeah.
And so that to me was pretty cool. And then I have a feeling, well, first of all, yes, Giant's Drink, kind of Kobayashi Maru-ish.
Mm-hmm.
No one's ever beaten this. I'm like, okay, am I missing something? Because they were taunting this, like building this up as like this big thing, and I'm just like, either there's a reveal coming, or I'm missing something, because it didn't seem like that big of a deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if I'm dense
I think we can address this either
You're
now or
going to
later.
address if I'm dense?
No, the answer is no. I think, again, we talked about
Go
this.
ahead. That was all
Sorry.
I had, so let's jump into discussion.
All right.
Yeah.
On our last video, we talked about this book coming out in the late 70s
Sure.
as a short story, and then again in 1985 as a novel. We talk about like the whole video game premise back in the 70s and 80s. You had Pong, some beginning Atari stuff. You had the beginning of computers in general, but
Right.
everything more
Missile
or less.
Command.
Missile Command, great game. I love Missile Command. But there are these games that were supposedly winnable, and this was a game where it was. You almost wonder if it was a test on the will of the player, because they knew that regardless of whatever they took, it was going to kill them. Like, what is someone's resolve to keep playing that if they never actually win? And so you're testing to see internal strength to see if they keep playing it to try to find a way around it, or if they just give up.
And I think it's also persistence and this perception that every move they make, everything they're doing is being watched, and they want to be the one that doesn't give up, and they want to be the one that maybe gets past it. So that could be some of it. When I was reading through, and this kind of applied in the previous chapter when they were like doing the messaging at the desks and things like that, I'm like trying to visualize, what is this like? Is it like just on the screen? Is it like an immersive 3D thing? And I think this is kind of the genius of how Card approached this, because we said so at the very beginning that he's light on the details. He lets your brain fill in a lot of the extraneous things that don't ultimately matter to the story. So you can kind of build this up in your head however you want it to be.
Yeah, he's kind of built all the framework around it, and then you can kind of paint it how you want.
You can do the color by numbers on your own time. So I thought that was really cool, because it doesn't then tie it to the technological imaginings of the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because it sounds like Giant Drink's a highly immersive, probably some sort of like an Oculus or 3D experience. That's the way it feels, because it's basically a choose your own adventure, video game. So it's a little bit of role playing, but staged out, and you make the selections that determine your next path.
It almost feels like this open world. Type simulation almost. So I don't know, that whole concept intrigued me, just how he wrote it and how you don't have to be dependent on a certain technological advancement, because it grows as the reader grows. And then again, I don't understand why it was this huge thing yet.
Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Another thing that I think Card does here that is kind of interesting is how he uses. So when Ender when he kills the giant in the game, he starts to have regrets, and Card brings back his brother Peter as the side of him that's kind of dark and evil and potentially murder or do these things, but then it forces Ender to kind of have these internal struggles of, am I Peter? I want to be more like Valentine, but really. Peter and Valentine seem to be more like the yin and yang of kind of who Ender is. So I think it's kind of
like the Metallica song "Am I Evil" at the cover
of Diamond Head song.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Am I?
Yeah.
Something like that. My mom wasn't a witch, though.
That you know of.
No, that's true. Anyway.
Now I'm gonna have that in my head.
My mother was a witch. Sorry.
She was burned alive. Sorry. Yeah. I'm done now.
She's made of wood.
Bernard.
But he's still kind of a piece of work, but he's okay. First, before we talk about Bernard, I wondered when I read this again if Alai was kind of a derivative off of Alai. Like, if he is kind of the bridge between all of the Launchies, he seems to be the main focal point here, and everyone else kind of gravitates towards him. And even though Bernard is a jerk, he is less of a jerk when Alai is around.
And it even said, when Alai started to kind of assume that mantle, Bernard initially was a little resistant, but he was willing to go along with it. So I think that it was I like that that solution that Card came up with for Ender there, because I
Mhm.
think it did two things. It resolved the situation, and it also showed that Ender's ego isn't so fragile that he has to be the one
Yeah,
calling
exactly.
the shots. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Next time, we're jumping right into Chapter 7, which is called Salamander. It's about a cute little lizard.
But a cooking
It's an
utensil that
amphibian,
keeps
isn't it?
things really warm.
Salamander's an amphibian, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah.
We want to be.
We'll have these
accurate.
answers and
we can
more
fix that
coming
in
up.
post then. So
We
So you
won't,
don't
because
look
I'm
dense.
lazy.
Yeah.
Please click the like button if you did enjoy this video. We invite you to use the comment section to add discussion points. I'm not going to edit that out either. Use comments, talk stuff. We answer.
Bell notice.
Bell notification. Subscribe.
More video.
More video next time. Till then.
Alonzi. Jesus.